Annette Shore, and I live in New York City. Oh, there's Rhonda.
Great.
She's there.
Yes,
Okay.
here.
All right. I'm finding my way back to you.
There she.
Hi, everybody. I couldn't find the link at first. I'm so glad. I apologize for not being able to find it until now.
No worries, Rhonda. Great to have you.
Good to see everybody.
See you.
Yeah. Good to see you. Rhonda, we were just going to do sort of a go round of intros and people just saying where they are physically and, you know, any quick reflection they wanted to share on where they are in time and space. And then after that, we'll be turning it over to you.
Great.
So, Peter, did you want to lead that or shall I?
Oh, sure, if you like. And let's see, how many people do we have on the call, Nanette?
We have
19.
19, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through the alphabet, and or maybe I can do it by just looking at you on the participants that I see on the screen. If and Nanette, you take over for me if I reach the end of the participants I can see.
Okay.
So I'm Peter Gable. I'll start, and I am in San Francisco in my son's room. My parents, his grandparents, are on the wall here. Not their pictures are on the wall, and of course Sam is now 24 and hasn't lived here for many years, but we still keep it just as it was. I'm complete. How about Bruce Peterson?
Hi, I'm Bruce Peterson. I'm in my home office in Minneapolis. It's not nearly as historical as Peter's, but it's a nice spot to sit, and I can watch it outside snowing hard.
Wow.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Bruce. Kim Vanderheiden.
I'm Kim Vanderheiden. I'm sitting in my home art studio in Castro Valley, California, and I am a bit of an anomaly in that I'm here as an artist and don't have any connection with law, but my work is interested in the connection between love and justice.
Laurie Barron, please. Thanks, Kim.
Hi, I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, overlooking a street where everybody is walking or running to a boulevard where they can get some exercise. Nanette, I remember you from decades ago, and I used your article forever in my teaching, and I'm actually getting ready to teach something similar tonight, and it's so nice to see you. So back from legal aid days in the 80s, I believe. Thanks.
Kathy Clark. Thank you, Laurie. Kathy Clark.
My name's Kathy Clark. I am in the East Bay, across the hill from both Peter and Rhonda. And I practice law a little bit and do some healthcare consulting and are trying to find a purpose in how I can do something to help with the virus. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Marjorie Silver.
Hi, I am sitting at my desk in our country home in Springs on the eastern end of Long Island, looking out at two blue jays circling my bird feeder.
Thank you, Marjorie. Good to see you. Elaine Quinn.
Hi, it's Elaine Quinn here. I'm in London in the UK. I am delighted to be on the call. We had a really nice call recently with Pricelap. I edit the Conscious Lawyer magazine and really looking forward to doing an issue in collaboration with Pricelap. And so it's really nice to be on this call again. I'm really looking forward to hearing from Rhonda.
Thank you, Elaine. Good to see you. Bradley Roth.
Hi there. I'm in New York City. I haven't been out of my apartment in, I don't know, a couple of weeks now. And so I'm a little envious of those who have sun-swept views of bays and rivers and whatnot. But we're here in solidarity in New York, and I teach a course at in mediation and meditation. I'm an attorney and mediator, and very glad to be here.
Thank you, Bradley. Angela Harris. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Peter. Hi, everybody. I'm in my apartment in Chicago, and it's cold, and it was snowing, but it stopped. I'm super excited to be here and listen to what my friend Rhonda has to say.
Great. Thanks, Angela. Let's see how this works. Eliza Vorenberg.
Hi, I'm in Rhode Island. I work with Lori Barron and Susie Harrington-Steppen, who's on this call as well. We are all at Roger Williams University School of Law in the public interest and pro bono area, and I'm sitting in my third floor office.
Great. Thank you very much. Is it Blanca Leon?
Hi, yeah, this is Blanca. I'm based outside of London in the UK, and I see the sky, which is always pleasant. Not everybody has that, I suppose. I am relatively new to PySlap and joined a call recently that Elaine was also on, the Conscious Lawyer collaboration. And I'm so interested to see such a variety of people with different backgrounds and interests, and really excited to hear more and how I might be able to contribute somehow. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Suzanne Herring.
Hi, I am in Jamestown, Rhode Island. As my colleague Eliza mentioned, we're from Roger Williams. And right now I'm in my bedroom slash workstation slash fourth grade classroom for my daughter. A little bit of everything now. And I'm really excited to be on the call. We're trying really hard to integrate mindfulness into our experiential learning at the law school.
That's great. That's great. Thanks so much. Apita Shah. Alpita.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm relatively also new to the Peace Lab group. I attended the conference 2 years ago and have been on some of the emails and listening in on the calls. I'm based in Chicago, Illinois. I'm in my apartment right now, working remotely. I have spent most of my career in government at the international, federal, and most recently at the city of Chicago, but now work at a small law firm, and we're doing a lot of work with small businesses, trying to keep them alive. I am grateful to be here. I'm excited to listen to Rhonda, who Maya Durr had connected us by email once, but we never followed. I never followed up in a significant form. So I'm grateful to be here with everybody today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bonnie Silvestri.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Silvestri calling in from Sarasota, Florida, and I met Nanette almost 15 years ago through PillSap, and I think Elaine let me know about this call. I work in local government, and I'm the ADA coordinator, so I'm interested in learning about how I can assist with vulnerable populations. And also just happy to be safe and joining all of you.
Bonnie, welcome. It's great to hear
Thank you.
On the call.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bonnie. Farsh Narden. Farsh.
Yes, just had to unmute myself. I'm Farsh. I'm from Stuttgart, Germany. I'm a spiritual teacher and a lawyer, and I first worked as an attorney, and I now work for the government in the field of, in the Ministry of Science, Research and the Arts.
Good to have you back, Farsh. Good to see you. Let's see, I have 202-236-0753. I'll bet it's Perry Sedman.
It is Perry Sedman. So I've been involved with PySlap almost since the beginning with Peter and Nanette, which is a long time ago. I'm in Washington, D.C. at the moment. And, you know, there's nothing worse than quarantine for an extrovert who lives alone. I started having a conversation with a spider the other day. And and then I found out we had something in common because he was a web designer.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
I like that.
You might watch the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Yes, basketball.
Right.
Let's see, who have I missed? Area code 215-421-3078. Is it Susan? Maybe not. 215-421-3078. Or is that Bonnie? No.
No. Oh.
Ah,
Is it a,
I think you missed David Nida, whose
okay.
is alive.
I'm here.
Right. David, go ahead.
Hi guys, I'm David Nita. First of all, let me just thank Elaine Quinn who invited me to this forum. So I'm sitting here in my London art studio. As you can see behind me, you've got Vladimir Trechikov doing Zulu Girl, which is, these were kitsch art back in the days. And over there, this won a prize for photo exhibition of a baby being delivered, home birth in Africa. But anyway, that's my art. And I'm a lawyer and a poet, and I'm actually right now decided to call myself a bit of a cartoonist. I've been doing a cartoon a day since the lockdown, and I'm working on today's cartoon. And yeah, I'm just very excited to hear from you guys. So I'll join your forum and to, listen to you all. So thank you for inviting me. And as we say in Jamaica, blessed love.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there anyone I have not included in the group?
Paul Lato here.
Paul, okay, great. Please introduce yourself, Paul. Quickly, one
Yeah,
sentence.
This is Paul Lato. I'm in Renton, Washington, where it's 60. I'm in my nondescript apartment bedroom right now, and scattered with a bunch of writing materials around because I'm currently working on a book with Dr. Kelly Brown on love in the time of pandemic.
Great, Paul. So glad to have you. Has anyone not introduced her or himself or themselves?
Hi, Peter. This is Kim, Northern California. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Complete.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Nice to see you again as well. All right. Nanette, I think.
I haven't. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got bumped off Zoom and I had to re-sign in. So hi, everyone. I'm Nanette Shore. I live also in New York City and work at Bronx Legal Services, serving low-income community and a lot of challenges right now, of course. I'm in the area of special education and dealing with all the remote learning issues, as some of you are doing as parents. So anyway, wonderful to be here.
Thanks, and I'll give it back to you. I'll just say one sentence. Since there are a number of new people here, I'll just say that PISLAP, the Project for Integrating Spirituality, Law, and Politics, we are a group of lawyers, law professors, law students, and others like the artists who are on this call, who seek to bring the longings of the human heart into the definition of justice and a transformation of the legal system so that our longing to fully and deeply connect with one another can be realized in a public forum that is articulating what true justice actually means. So that means going beyond the existing system of adversarial conflict and separation toward a healing-centered system of mutuality. And I'll lateral back to you, Nanette, then.
Thank you, Peter. So welcome to this wonderful group of people. I'm delighted to introduce Rhonda, who many of you may know. Rhonda is a longtime member of PISLAP and friend of ours. I have long admired Rhonda's work. She's led us in so many ways. And I recently, I can't remember how recently, but heard her speak about her new book in person at the New York Open Center, and bought the book and have been moved by it, and delighted to have her speak on the call. So Rhonda, I share it over to you.
Thank you, everybody. Certainly, Peter and Annette, as always, for kind of keeping this beautiful group, along with Perry and others, right, who've really been helping make sure this group kind of keeps going forward year after year. I thank you so much for that, and for this invitation to kind of share a few thoughts, and I hope seed a conversation about some themes. Maybe we'll reflect a little bit, practice a little bit here in the time that we have. So yes, I have been, as was mentioned, busy at work over the last year or so. I should say I'm a law professor at the University of San Francisco. I am fortunately, in some ways, in many ways, I'm on sabbatical this year. So I had planned that this would be a year of presenting on my book that came out in September, The Inner Work of Racial Justice, Healing Ourselves and Transforming Our Communities through through mindfulness, actually. And, that book grew out of 15 years or so of pushing the boundaries at the University of San Francisco and beyond in terms of different ways of exploring bringing inner work practices to bear on studying and teaching and sharing and convening and communing around the intersections of law and social identities, in particular looking at race, racism, and law with the support of these kinds of contemplative practices. Mindfulness meditation just kind of being one of a number of different ways that I've been exploring my own life, but then supporting others in doing some of what Peter alluded to, really trying to crack open the sense of what might be possible in terms of a more just way of understanding, first and foremost, what race and racism in a context of cultural, long-standing commitments to and legacies of white supremacy, like what that really means and what are the legacies and implications for us at personal, interpersonal, and systemic collective levels as we try and make the world a little bit better. So for me, it's just been about that, like trying to find different ways of entering into more deeply and perhaps more with more potential for true liberation, these questions and conversations and projects around justice as it intersects with race and as race intersects with all of these other isms and schisms or vectors of oppression in our society, in the US, and in some sense globally. So, it's a kind of exploring in a certain level. And on another, it's sort of just a angle into really opening up the possible in terms of the spiritual view or perspective or the intersection between spirituality, law, and politics. I'd maybe want to say that, the book is its own kind of project, and I'm happy to sort of talk to you a little bit more. I don't really necessarily want to I got a copy here, of course, present, right? This here, I can't. It's 300 and some pages when my editor wanted it to be 200. So, it really offers, and for those who might be interested in a way of entering into mindfulness and contemplative practice, but with the commitment to that those practices as a support for doing the things I've just described, really more deeply from our own first person experience as a first approximation to how we might know more about anything, right? What do we know from our own experience about race, racism, other ways, and ways that those things intersect with other ways that we identify ourselves, others identify us, and find ourselves embedded in structures of oppression, impossibility, or privilege. So really looking at ways of supporting us and looking at our own lives, our own experiences, our heritages, our legacies, and from that place of deeper engagement with what we know, finding a way into practices to explore interpersonally how we are around these topics and what we might do together, and then collectively and systemically. And I should say, in my view, I think of justice from an sort of an ecological, I'm going to use the term for now, ecological standpoint, where I think of the work that we might do as having implications for us personally, like personal ethical commitments, things, ways we want to show up in the world, ways we want to be with each other and with these questions of injustice. Interpersonal implications, right? So what do I want to do? What do I need to work on with myself so that I can show up in certain kinds of ways? How do I want to be with others? An approximation of what justice means. So for me, personal justice, interpersonal justice, and then collective, more systemic projects. Seems to me we're always embedded in all of that. And it always has felt to me that if we didn't find ways to more systematically and rigorously start with ourselves, right? And engage in our own projects of discovery, exploration, figuring out where our blind spots, if you will, might be, or the things that get in the way of us living our highest and best and deepest, richest, most heartful aspirations for justice. Like, what gets in the way? And I think that ground, like that desire to live from a place of the liberationist ideals, is what drew me into a contemplative approach to dealing with this. Like, so for me, yes, obviously, like everybody else, trained in law and in argument and in analysis, and also trained in sociology before going to law school for me, and also, frankly, being trained as a military officer, lots of trainings. Grew up as a Black woman in the South. That's its own kind of training, frankly. So I have, like everybody else, embedded in a world and learned a lot. And, there was some way in which I've always been very interested in how we might live right now from our highest and best sense of what freedom might mean. And let that help be a guide for what we might do together and what the law, what might show up in law ultimately. But that it has to start here, or might start here, let's say that. And so the book has been about exploring different ways of encouraging and seeing what might come from that kind of commitment as respects what we might call racial justice, but I actually think it has implications beyond that, obviously. I just feel like, you write one book about one thing as best you can, and it still ends up being too long and not long enough and all of that. So yeah, I would say that was what I was planning to do with this year, support folks in looking at our heritage, looking at how we came to be the racialized beings and that we are, and what that has meant for us, and what opportunities have come up through that for us to teach and to learn, and what gets, what we don't know, and how we relate to all of that, and how we can support our students and colleagues and other lawmakers and others in more rightly inhabiting their positionality and kind of seeing what, again, where that, what challenges and opportunities arise from it. So that work is ongoing. In fact, this Thursday, I'll be meeting with folks at Barnard College who, so I get now invited to work with people who are dealing with incidents on the ground. Something happens on campus, and then often I'll come to help hold space, et cetera. Help people think about policy changes that might minimize, harm that's happening on campuses and so on and so forth. But of course, we're now in pandemic, and we're now seeing anew how structured these oppressions really still are, right? When we look at the disparate impact of COVID, the disparate racial impact of COVID, right? The data that's coming out showing the much more lethal consequences of this virus in many urban areas in the United States. Data which apparently has been replicated in places like Brazil and other places once we start to get the data. We start to see patterns that reveal what we've all known, and again, our life stories will bear that out if we let it, right? Our organizations will tell us this if we pay attention, right? That our society continues to still be very much structured around privilege and hierarchy, with legacies, replicating racialized oppression against African Americans, immigrants of all different backgrounds, others, so to racialized, subordinated others on the one hand, and then still privileging the legacies of white supremacy still running through our culture. We're seeing that again with these with the data out there about the disparate impact of COVID. It's hard. It's always hard to see this. It's hard to stay with it. It's hard to figure out what to do with it. But I think that that's our challenge. Our challenge is to see both that there this personal and interpersonal piece of it, in service ideally of creating a world in which we're not tempted to structure opportunity for healthcare, education, and all the other kinds of resources that are in play here, in ways that make those things available to some groups more so than others. How do we not keep doing this? How do we completely transform the world such that everybody's lives truly do actually matter? It's not just a tagline. That to me is really what we're invited in this moment to deeply reflect on. And so I want to kind of stop there. There obviously, I'm happy to offer a practice or to, say more, but I'd love to have to open it up to any kind of reflections in response or questions or alternate ways of thinking about this. I love the diversity of backgrounds on the call, so happy to kind of move into whatever direction you think. And Peter and Nanette, if you have some suggestions about where we might move from here, I'm happy to hear. I see in the chat a thought about maybe offering a practice. Yeah. Practice.
Well, Nanette, it's Peter. I mean, you're so eloquent in articulating and presenting for us what we are all, in whatever way, conscious of. Certainly these recent statistics about mortality differentiated by race are overwhelming. And one thing you might do, Rhonda, is how how can you help us move toward something you eloquently described, sort of throwing ourselves forward to alter these conditions that we all suffer in seeing. You know, how maybe your practices assist people in that, in feeling we're contributing to transforming conditions of injustice like this.
Yeah. So let's, and I can say a little bit about that, and maybe it'll segue into a practice, a little bit of a taste of practice. So one thing I want to just say, because I'm feeling it right now, is like, for me, this is really full-bodied practice. So that, you know, when I talk about racial injustice, there's a lot of feeling here, especially when I think, being invited to think about the data on the disparities that we've just talked about. This is not just, these are not just concepts, these are not just ideas, right? They link to, you know, a kind of devastating heartbreak, right? Around the reality that, you know, historically and up to right now, we've structured so much of our lives in ways that make some of us and some of our families and some of our communities radically more vulnerable. The pain and dislocation of broader systems of oppression, right? The kind of oppressive forces are not evenly distributed. They're not just evenly. Some communities are always kind of more on the front line than others. And that to me is a painful thing to really, really sit with and to walk with and to hold hands with people as they suffer, right? And once again face losing a job, or once again face not having, you know, the money necessary to bear up, you know, one more week, right? Again and again and again. Once again face the threat of being criminalized. Again, recriminalized. As I feel myself reflecting on, I have a sister who was incarcerated for a period of time under circumstances having to do with economic vulnerability, having somebody move into her house who ended up being a burglar, stashing things in her house. You know, the ways in which vulnerability of one sort, gendered, begets vulnerability of another sort, criminalization, then a history, then vulnerable to losing jobs or not being able to find jobs, that carries well past the period that one has served one's time. This is not just abstraction for me, right? This is in my own family, my sister, okay? So it's hard in the body. And so one of the ways that I think my work it offer, right? One of the aspects on offer here is that we re-inhabit the feeling landscape of our lives. Because I think part of what happens with intellectual pursuits is we get, you know, really good at this part and often somewhat disconnected from this part. And yet I think so much of our regenerative healing capacity for living into a different day and way comes from reconnecting heart, body, spirit, position on the planet, right? And the resourcing that can come from all of that, living here, alive. So, so a practice, many different kinds of practices then, actually, right? If you think about it, if this is what we're talking about, how can we re-embody ourselves first, even when doing so opens us up to, you know, great pain and despair and anger and rage, right? And we're just trying to, you know, on the one hand, write books, teach classes, make, help somebody else, judge, doing these different actual functions in the world. And we kind of feel the risk of like feeling too much, allowing too much to, render us unable to do the things that this society requires of us, right? So I feel like there's a lot, I'm speaking to, in other words, a set of aspirations I have for these kinds of practices. And then we just try different things to kind of, see what can help us with different parts of the kind of set of aspirations and objectives. So one piece is about how can I hold the emotional landscape? How can I actually allow myself to feel again and feel with others? That's just like by itself, like maybe one practice. How can I, if I can allow myself to feel more fully, do that in a way that's titrated so I don't, so that I, as best as possible, minimize the likelihood of triggering trauma in myself, or, again, putting me in a place of overwhelm. How can I work with being able to feel again and feel enough again that I can come more alive to what, my life is telling me about what I need to do and with whom right now. Okay. So it is, emotional intelligence is the kind of a catchphrase for that, but it's really more than that. It's like really embodying ourselves again. So there's some practices that are around that, creating safety and, whole kind of holistic ways of holding ourselves. And again, that notion of personal justice, could attach to this part of the practice. How do I allow myself to feel again in a world that's constantly, threatening overwhelm, if you feel at all, because it's painful in many ways. And in a world that's kind of rewarding us to be distracted all the time, not really feel anything, or only feel in these narrow banded ways. You can be angry at those people, right? Or you can care about this set of people in this transactional way, but you're not supposed to care about everybody. And, wise ways of working with anger to help it teach us, to allow our anger, for example, to teach us more about what we care about, more about what values underlie what feels like this rage, what values, what other feelings. Anger sometimes is a mask for sadness. It's easier in some settings to feel anger and to feel that the energy of the fight, which sometimes we need. I'm not saying we throw that out always. But again, we're inviting a more nuanced appreciation of the emotional underpinning of thought and action. Audre Lorde, for example, one of my teachers in this, right? Audre Lorde, feminist, Black woman, poet, activist, queer, healthcare person challenged with, physical ailments in her life, and, the threat of poverty, although also protected by being an educator in a certain sense. Wrote about, the power of, she used the phrase erotic. What I think she meant was like life energy, creative life force that comes from being able to feel again. And how part of what happens when we're oppressed is we get disconnected from our life force. Like that is what oppression is about. So Audre Lorde is an inspiration to me. Toni Morrison is an inspiration to me. Her book Beloved, right? She has this beautiful baby Suggs sermon, right? We're in, and I'm gonna say, I'm sure it's just a pure coincidence, but the name Suggs is in my ancestry on both sides. My mother's last name Suggs, my grandfather's back, right? So Suggs is, and growing up, of course, in the legacy as well of formerly enslaved people in the South. So this scene in the book Beloved, where Nan Suggs is my grandmother's name. Baby Suggs is speaking a kind of a sermon in a clearing in which she basically says, you know, look at your hands, feel your hands, and touch them, and feel your face and neck, right? That which people would rather sometimes see on a noose. Love this body again. Do you see what I'm saying? In a beloved Toni Morrison speaking the same thing. Oppression as a first approximation feels like I can't love my body. Does that make sense? Right? So to me, that's where these practices can start with pausing, feeling the sense of the ground beneath us in this moment. So in whatever ways you feel comfortable in this moment, eyes open, eyes closed, kind of shifting the body so you can allow yourself the support of a chair or a bed, or however it is you want to kind of really allow yourself to take this as a moment, whether moving and stretching a little bit and then settling in. Feel the body in this moment, the power of it, the beauty of it, however, you know, challenged you might be. And this is a moment where physically, some of us are definitely more challenged than others, right? That's the pandemic and the threat of it. Nevertheless, if you're breathing, as one of my teachers in this mindfulness work, John Kabat-Zinn, is fond of saying, if you're breathing, there's no doubt more right with you than wrong with you. Feel what's right with you. Breathe in as best you can. The sense of what is well within you, and breathe out. Awareness of the commitment you have as demonstrated by your willingness to just sit and be with yourself in this moment, to be well, to be strong. So breathing in a sense of what is well, check it out. What's working in this body and this being right now? Offering appreciation as we breathe in and breathe out. Yes, sending that appreciation head to toe, maybe with a kind of a wash of like intentional expanding as best you can what is well, so that imagine expanding what is well, the strength, the health, the well-being in you. As you breathe in and out, imagine kind of covering the body in almost like a membrane of what is well and good and healing in you. And as we breathe in and out, imagine extending this sense of what is well beyond yourself to include those who are close by in your shelters and place or homes or wherever you happen to find yourself. As you breathe in and out, noticing that we are connected in time and place. Even though we might be in these separate shelters, we are in communities, we are connected with loved ones, even if perhaps more so by these computers than we'd like. So feeling the networks of support that are a part of what is able to happen and be felt and known in this body and this being right now. Right? Expanding perhaps that sense of the networks of support to include the people without whom we wouldn't have been able to that we had. The water that we drink, the systems and networks of support of long standing that we've inherited and we thrive as a result of. So breathing in and breathing out and sending out a wish for well-being that extends to members of the network without whom we wouldn't be here, known and unknown, people whose names we know and do not know. We extend the wish for well-being in ways that extends, we're imagining, and we don't know the limits of the power of our energy in this way. So imagine that as we breathe in and breathe out the wish for well-being, may each and all be well and safe and easeful and healthy in this moment. We don't know the limits of the reach of that. Breathing in and out now, recognizing the people on this call, in this network, extending this wish for well-being as we breathe in and out touching and concerning, reaching out toward everyone on this call. That means you. Can you feel and open up to receiving a wish for well-being that is being extended right here, right now to you as well? What is it like to open up to imagine receiving others' wishes for your well-being right here, right now? So from this place, we might shift a bit into a form of ascending and receiving practice, knowing that for all of us here, of course, we do this not only for ourselves and our loved ones, or even ourselves and our professional connections. We do this because we believe we might be of some support in the world. So in recognition of the challenges of that, I want to invite just a little bit of ascending and receiving practice, if you're willing, from this place of having sensed into your own resources, the wish you have for your own well-being, the feeling that we are extending this to each other. You might even add more. There's so many different ways you can do this kind of practice. You might reflect on places you've been where you felt really safe. Call those images to mind. A person or some being around whom you felt really safe, bring that in. You might place one hand over the heart or both hands over the heart, one beneath the belly button. You might just experiment in that way with allowing extra kind of neurobiological support for the body as you kind of breathe in and breathe out, cultivating the wellness within you, cultivating what you know about nurture and being nurtured, and how you carry this within you right now, and how you can expand it in moments of anxiety or challenge. So as we do this, an invitation might be, and again, this might often be a separate practice altogether, but just to give us a taste here. And the invitation would be to call to mind a particular person you know to be suffering right now, or if you're willing or would prefer a group of people. As best you can in this moment, see if you can allow yourself to really feel, really obviously we're just kind of opening ourselves up to what we know this person to be feeling and taking something, feeling the quality of the heart that cares for the suffering of others. And so on the in-breath, kind of taking that in, and on the out-breath, seeing if you can extend some of this very intentional wish for relief from suffering toward that person or that group of people that you believe to be suffering right now. So with this part of the practice, the invitation is to, on the in-breath, take in as best you can, open yourself up to what it would feel like to be in that person's place or that group's place right now. Imagine putting yourself in their shoes. Allowing yourself to feel touched by the suffering that you know. And as you breathe out, sending the energy of resource, protectedness, liberation, healing, repair, resilience, and directing that toward that person or that group of people you believe to be suffering right now. So as we prepare to bring these moments of practice to a close, I want to invite a kind of letting go, if you will, for now, the image of those who are suffering that you call to mind. Kind of see if you can dissolve, allow that imagery to dissolve just a bit. And as you do so, call to mind the sense of the earth here as a support for us as we sit or lie or stand where we are. As you breathe in and out, feel the support, the sense of belonging on the earth, the sense of your life as an embodiment of the earth that walks, the heritages that flow through you, being here for an important reason. So breathing in this sense of being of and a part of this earth. As you breathe, sensing into the air, the wind element, right? Respiratory, we are re-spiritualizing ourselves as we breathe in and out. Feeling the energy, the warmth in our hearts, the fire of purpose and intentionality that brings us together. The flow of life, blood, fluids, water in the body, which is more than 50% water. We know this. So as we move from these moments of practice, feel the resourcefulness that comes from your being of and a part of this good earth. And may we, as we move into our day from here, touch into what we know to be our own ground of support within us. Take care of ourselves, love ourselves as we do the work to support others. So that was a kind of a taste of some things.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we don't have very much time, all right? We're ending at 11, am I right, Peter and Nanette, or? Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Any one question or reflection? Or two?
I have one, which is, would you say with this part, how this practice links to how we're going to change the conditions that produce the injustice of COVID-19 you described earlier?
So I don't think there's one way, but I think when we do this, especially as collectives around commitment to action, when we take this into collectives that already have a commitment to action, like this one, then the invitation really is to just see the flow through of commitment to our own well-being, commitment to being well with others as we do that work right here, right now. So whether that be making financial contributions in ways that support getting the vote out, or actually supporting the alleviation of food banks right now and making sure that there's food in the communities where we are. In other words, there's no one way, but I think for me, it's about taking this kind of commitment into collectives that are committed to action and helping us in that process feel our healing, capacity for healing, and have that be the ground from which we then offer. Trusting that if we are more healed as we act, that will help to alleviate, and that's going to add another dimension to what we can contribute to the world at this time.
Thank you.
I think, can I offer one thing?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. It feels to me like this time with you has contributed to, I would imagine, to say, to all of our healing and to our ability to contribute. And I'm just very grateful to you for this way of being together with folks. It was really wonderful. And I wish there was more time to share, but
email me if you have questions, reflections. I'd love to hear from you. You can easily find me online or Facebook or anywhere. You can find me at USF, University of San Francisco. You can find my email there. I would love to hear any reflections, questions, comments, ways you are doing the same kind of thing, wanting to do more, doing more. But just know that you're not alone in these deep aspirations for healing that include us. First approximation to justice. We've got to include ourselves in this.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Rhonda, there's many thank yous and appreciations coming to you in the chat room. So
thank you. I just want to close by just saying, recently I had the pleasure of being with Alice Walker, who basically kind of gave me an extra lift up for this kind of work when she said, The Color Purple was basically a Buddhist sort of book about waking up to joy, no matter what our circumstances, and especially for women of color and other people who have been oppressed. We are not to miss the joy, right? That is, right? Do the work of healing and saving the world, but do not miss the joy. That's why we're here. So thank you all.
thank you. And thanks to everyone for being with us today and sharing the moment. So.
Be well, be safe.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Good to see everyone.
Annette, do you have a final word about when we next gather?
Yes, thank you, Peter, for reminding me. We actually have a PISLEP community call on, I believe it's April 22nd, but I will send out an email for dialogue, so folks can share thoughts and follow up also on our time with Rhonda together. I will send a note out to everyone, and if anyone would like to sign up for emails, please feel free to just drop me a line. It's contactpislap@gmail.com.
Great, wonderful.
Thanks again, Nanette and Peter and everybody on the call, and for all that you are and all that you're doing in this world.
Thank you.
Rhonda.
Hello, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Rhonda. Bye-bye.
Thank you.